Hello everyone, welcome to the craft video for the Mixed Up Chameleon. Here's the book that we just read, right, about our funny mixed up friend who learned that it was important just to be himself. So I'm going to show you what materials you will need from your bag for this craft. I'm going to move this and which ones you need of your own from your house. So you will need this piece of paper with that chameleon on it. You will need your little bag of tissue paper pieces. You will need this body of the chameleon and this little head right here, because that's going to be the head of your chameleon, so you'll need those too. You'll need that yellow paintbrush. You'll need your two googly eyes, and then you will need this little white cup that we gave you. Those are all the things from your bag. Now on your own, you'll need a glue stick and some Elmer's glue and some magic markers. This is my container with a bunch of my markers in it. Okay, and then you'll need a little bit of water, but your parents are going to help with this part. We're going to be putting a little bit of the Elmer's glue in the water, mixing that up and using that. That'll be the very last step that we do. So I'm going to put that off to the side for now. Okay, so I'm going to go get set up so that you can see me in the camera. So, oh, and you'll also need a pair of scissors. Okay, so don't forget your scissors. So these are all the items that you need to start our craft. Okay, all right, I'll be right back and I'll be turning the camera around and we're going to go ahead and get started. Okay, so go gather all of those materials up and we'll be ready to go. Okay, boys and girls, so we're going to start our craft for the Mixed Up Chameleon. Something fun I wanted to show you first though. So one of the things you have in your bag is this sweet little chameleon. Now he's not the one from our story. We're going to be making one like this. However, this is another chameleon drawing that I have. Now you have a piece of paper that's going to be an extra chameleon that if you want to color it or do something special with it, you certainly can. But I wanted to show you, when we talk about chameleons being camouflaged, watch what happens when I pick this up. Oh, look at that. Now, can you see, oops, that I have the outline of a chameleon? Now this will work better when I put him up here. All right, here we go. So we talked about in the story how the chameleon, every time that he rested on something different, whether it was the leaves or the trunk of the tree or that yellow sand, that he turned the same color as his background. So this kind of gives you an example of how a chameleon changes to adapt to his environment. So watch this. Now, if I take him and put him here, oh, look at that. Now he's a colorful purple and pink chameleon, right? So what if I take him over here? What's going to happen? Oh, he's going to turn bright pink on my bright pink couch. There he is, right? He's going to blend in with his environment. So this is just a little example to show you. Look at this. Watch. Ready? Whoop. Now he's a silver and gray chameleon, but you can see he blends in, right? And that's how he adapts to his environment. So here, a rainbow chameleon, kind of similar to how the chameleon in the story turned out towards the end, as he decided he wanted to be like all those other different animals. Now, if I put him on the floor, watch what happens. See, he blends in. Now, without that glaring light, he's pretty hard to see, isn't he? Look at that. He blends right in like that. So you can see how well he can camouflage, or she can camouflage themselves to adapt to their environment. Isn't that fun? This one's my favorite because if you bring him up here, I have this kind of funny clear chair. You actually can see him the best on there, right? Because you can see the outline of his body. So just a fun way to show you how chameleons can camouflage themselves. Because if I put him back on here, you don't even realize he was on there. How about that? Okay, so I'm going to prop the camera up so you can see down, and we're going to go ahead and get started on our craft. So give me 1 minute to get my phone in the right spot. This always takes a little bit of, I call it finagling, which means trying to figure it out. All right, perfect. Now I'm coming around. Are you ready? Okay. All right, so here I am. Now you're not going to see a whole lot of Mrs. McAdams. You'll see my hands and you'll see me working on this part, okay? All right, so hopefully by this time you had stopped the video and gathered the materials that you need for your chameleon. So to start our chameleon, we want to make him sort of all different colors like he was on the front of the book. Or if you decide with the tissue that you have, maybe you just want to make him a few colors. It's really your decision on what kind of chameleon you would like to make, okay? So I'm going to prop this, I'm going to move this one over. I'm going to prop this up here if you'd like to see that one. You can certainly make it like that one, or you can choose an idea of your own. So the best place to start is to take out your tissue paper. There's a lot of squares in here. You will likely not use nearly, maybe not even half of these, but you'll have a lot left over if you'd like to do this project again. It's super, super fun. Okay, so I like to spread mine out. I'm gonna move this up a little bit. Okay, there we go. This way I can see all the different kinds and colors that I have. I'm gonna go around the camera one more time to make sure that you can see all of that in the picture. Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna move this up just a little because I don't want you to not see all the nice things that I'm doing. These are my markers. I'm gonna push those back just a little bit, move my glue back, and there is my head, okay? All right, so before we do anything else, the first place that you want to color before you put the tissue down are the feet of your chameleon, because this tissue is a little bit too big. If we try to cover that part of the chameleon with the tissue, that will not work. So you get to decide what color you would like the feet of your chameleon to be. Now these feet, right, are the colors of whatever section is. If you want to wait on that until you do the tissue, that's fine too. In fact, I think I might do it that way. We'll do the tissue and then we can go back and decide what color we'd like the feet to be, okay? So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna use glue and glue sticks, but the first thing we're gonna use is a glue stick on this, okay? So you wanna open up your glue stick and then turn it not too far up, right? Up far enough that a little bit sticks out, but you don't wanna turn it up too far. It gets a little messy that way, okay? Now, in order for this to work well, what you need to do is you always need to put the glue on the paper for this project and then put the tissue on top of the glue, okay? Now, what we don't want to do though, we don't want to put glue all over to start because this takes some time. And if we put glue all over, by the time I get down to here, that glue is going to be dried, right? And then it's not going to stick and then we have to use more glue. So we're just going to do a little bit at a time. Now, before I do that, I'm going to kind of decide maybe which colors I would like to use, okay? Or maybe there's some I know I don't want to use. I can put those in a I don't want to use pile, all right? So I'm going to do a little sorting just so I can kind of see. Oh, here I've got some purples. Now here's some fun things. Some of these have little stripes on them. Woohoo, that's really fun, okay? Oh, there's a sparkly one. So you might have something different in yours. It just depends on what came in your bag of tissue. But here I can just kind of see now that I'm spreading this out. Boy, do I have some fun colors and some fun patterns. You know, patterns are things like stripes or these squiggly marks, okay? So let's, oh, there's some red and white striped ones. Okay, now this is where you get to use your imagination and decide. You could make your chameleon all one color if that's what you'd like your chameleon to look like. You could make it half one color and half the other, or you could make it in different sections of color, just like on this chameleon. This is where it is totally up to you. Now, before we do anything, we then need to attach the head to our chameleon, okay? Because we want to make sure this also gets covered with tissue. Now you can see, here's the body, and this is where the head's gonna go. So the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna put glue right here. Okay, and I use purple so it kind of shows up when you can see it. You see that? I just made a circle right there. I didn't put it on here because if I cover this with glue and I lay it like this, some of it's going to get on my table. And sometimes it's a good idea to put a piece of paper underneath your project before you start. Okay, so now I'm going to decide where I want the head, right? I want to overlap on this a little bit, so it is going to stick out of the paper just a smidge, and that's okay. All right, and now I'm going to press that down. All right, so see, now I've got my head on there like my chameleon. Okay, awesome. All right, don't worry about the mouth. If we cover that up with some tissue, we can draw it in later. Okay, All right, so I'm even gonna lift just for a second and put a little extra glue under there. That way that stays down. Okay, now I'm ready to start. So I'm gonna be covering all of my chameleon with tissue. Now I wanna work really hard to try to stay in the lines as much as possible, but if it comes out over the line a little bit here, that's okay, because we're gonna go back and we're gonna trim that with our scissors, okay, when we're completely done. All right? Okay, so this is where you get to decide. So why don't you choose a couple pieces of tissue, what you would like, okay? Why don't we start up with the head. So let's decide what you would like, what color tissue you'd like on the head of your chameleon, okay? I think yellow kind of stands out to me, so I'm gonna start with some pieces of yellow. All right, so watch what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put a little bit of glue, almost like a circle of it, see that? And then I'm gonna put my yellow piece down like that. Okay, now again, it's okay if it sticks out a little bit here. We're gonna trim that later. We're probably gonna have grown-ups help us with that a little bit, okay? But we have a couple steps even before that, all right? Now, I'm gonna keep going. Right next to that, I'm gonna put some more glue. And now here, I can put it right next to it, or I can overlap it a little bit. Overlap means that you're laying one piece over the other one just a little bit. So I'm gonna overlap that like that. Now, if you have purple glue like me, don't worry, when that dries, you're not gonna see that purple glue, are you? Okay? All right, so then I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna put some more yellow on there, right? And it does slide a little bit, which is nice. You can kind of slide it into place. And again, that funny purple glue, we're not gonna see that when that's done. So here I go. I'm gonna keep doing it that way. So a little bit of glue and tissue, a little bit of glue and tissue. And this does remind me, as I've said, I'll be right back, boys and girls, I'm not leaving. I'm just going behind the camera. That before you start a project like this, it is a good idea to have something under it, because we are using glue and we don't necessarily want to get that on our parents' nice tables or anything, do we? Okay, so watch this. I'm gonna pick my chameleon up. I'm gonna lay him on that blue paper. That way, if I get some glue on that blue paper, it's no big deal. Okay, all right, so keep going like that. I'm wondering what you're choosing to make your heads. There's all kinds of fun colors and patterns. Maybe you're making a blue head on your chameleon, or maybe you're making a red head on your chameleon. Now, the fun thing about this, boys and girls, is when you finish this today, tomorrow morning, then on Tuesday morning when we get on Zoom, everybody's gonna bring their chameleons so we can see what they look like. But there's still a lot more to do on this chameleon. It's gonna be wonderful when it's done. All right, so keep going with that. So a little glue, a little tissue paper. And again, if you wanna make your head different colors, maybe your chameleon's gonna have a red and blue head or a purple and orange head. That is completely up to you to decide. This is the fun part of projects like this, is that you get to decide how you want yours to look. All right, so you can see that tissue that's hanging over? Don't worry about that, because after the next step, we'll end up trimming that off and your chameleon will have a nice smooth outline to its head. All right, so let's keep going. Now, I am gonna try not to cover the mouth, and that might be a little tricky, but if I do cover the mouth, it is totally okay. All right, and pieces can also go sideways like that, and that fits in really nicely. It's almost like a puzzle, right? You're trying to figure out the puzzle and make the pieces fit, okay? Now, you can also use scissors to trim pieces if you need them to be a certain shape. See here, I'm gonna bring this down here like this. I'm trying to keep that mouth open if I can. And again, if it goes over, no big deal. We'll take care of that at the end. And this is something I'm gonna be able to trim off, okay? I've got one more little part in there. Now watch. You might think, well, how do I make a piece small enough for that? You don't have to. Just put a little dab of glue in there and on top of that other piece, and I can layer that like that, and then I'll cut that piece off. All right, so I'm gonna hold that up so you can see how I did the face, okay? And it looks a little funny at first. We're not even close to being done, but now we have a nice yellow head on our chameleon, or whatever color you decided to do. Can't wait to see what you chose. Okay, so now we're gonna keep going. Okay, so now this is where you decide, do you want to start at the top and work your way down, or do you want to start down here and work your way up? Okay, you can decide. Now, when you get into this part right here, okay, again, it'll overlap a little bit, but just try not to cover the feet with any tissue because we're going to go back and color in those feet at the end, okay? All right, so my next color, I think I'm going to do something fun. Oh, see, I've got some of these fun pieces in my pile. You might have something like this. They look almost like confetti. And I thought, oh, wouldn't that be fun to do a little section like that? Now, I might do a stripe on my chameleon this way, or I might do it the same way here. This is where you get to use your imagination. You don't have to do it just like mine. In fact, I encourage you to do it whatever way you think is going to be fun. This is your own chameleon. Okay, there you go. Now see, it's gonna stick out. No big deal, because we're gonna go back to that. Little bit of glue and tissue, right? And glue and tissue and glue and tissue. Okay, all right, let's see if I have more of that. Oh, I do, and I probably should have made sure I did before I kept going, but here we go. A little bit of glue. Now here, I'm gonna try not to come down into the feet. So I'm gonna line that up like that. You see that? Okay. So the objective, which means the goal, what we're trying to do, is cover all the white in here, right? So that we just see all the fun color and pattern on the chameleon. Oh, I'm so excited already to see how yours is going to turn out. See how I lined that up here, leaving the feet open. There we go. Okay, I think I like that. I don't think I'm going to add any. Well, here's another one. Maybe I'll do one more and kind of fill in this space right here. Okay. Oh, that's fun. Okay. Oh, look, I had two on there, so I will use this extra one. See how I just keep going? Keep going, keep going. Here we go. Oh, there was two. Oh, that's a long one. So I'm going to peel that off gently. And you can peel them off when the glue is still wet. If the glue is dry, then it will rip. All right, there we go. So, okay, that's fun. I like that. What do you think? All right, super fun. All right, and we're going to keep going that way. So you're going to work your way down the chameleon, doing tissue. Now it'll get a little smaller in here, so you'll have to kind of tuck it in a little bit around this part, okay? So I'm gonna keep working on mine and do some more going down here. You keep working on yours. I'll be back in a minute once I get down to this part, and then we'll work on the feet, okay? So keep plugging away, decide what colors you're gonna do next or what patterns you're gonna do, and then we'll see what we're all doing when we get back together, okay? All right, so keep gluing, boys and girls, and I'll see you for the feet. All right, boys and girls, just checking in to see how it's going. All right, here's what I have done. I've done some purple and some blue. And you can see I've tried to stay really close to this line here so I don't cover the feet. Those are the ones we're going to come back and do with marker. A little bit over here, but that's no big deal because again, we're going to cut that, okay? So good, now you can keep on going and see if you're going to make the rest of this one color or change colors, okay? So I'm going to keep on going until I'm done with my tail, and then I'll be right back with you, okay? All right, keep up the good work. Okay, so I'm just about finished. Now, boys and girls, when you get towards this little end of this last little part of the tail, it gets a little tricky to get pieces in there. So I'm actually ripping small little pieces like that and putting just a little bit of glue on there and then kind of fitting those pieces in there like that. Don't worry if you can't get it exactly. It's no big deal. It'll all look fine when we're done. So there we go. I have put on all of my tissue the way that I like it. I found some fun striped tissue. So I'm done with this for now. Now, this tissue that you have left over, you could do another kind of project like this. Or if you'd like, this is why I gave you this one. If you would like to do this chameleon the same way we're doing this with some tissue, and then I'll show you the next step. You're welcome to, or you can just color. This one's yours to keep as well, to do whatever you'd like with. If you want to decorate it or color it, you can do it today, or you can save it for later in the week. That's just another fun one that you can use. Okay, all right, so now let's go ahead and color the feet. And so I'm going to use some markers. And I think I like what they did here. And again, you can do it any way you want, but I'm going to make a blue foot here since this is my blue tissue. So I'm going to make, this is sort of a bluish green, isn't it? So I'm going to go ahead and color this foot in with marker. Being careful to try to stay in the lines. That can be challenging sometimes. You could also use crayon if you like, if you have that nice crayon pack in your bag. I'm sorry, yes, if you have your crayons. So you're welcome to use your crayons too, okay? All right, more markers. So let's see, this is all different colors, so I can decide. I think I might do these feet, maybe this one yellow. I'm gonna take my time. We're not in any hurry. That's the great part about this. You just go ahead and take your time. You can always stop the video and start it again anytime that you want. And since this is different colors, I think I'm going to do red on that foot. Oh, actually, no. Well, yeah, I'm going to do red on this one since there's some red in these decorations. I wonder what color you're making your feet. Sure, it's fun. Sorry for that interruption there with the dog barking next door. He does like to bark. So you'll hear a little bit of him until he's done. And then down here, I'm going to do a little pink. Right, like that. Now, if you want to make all your feet the same color, go right ahead. Different colors. You could even make those feet striped if you want. Since this is striped, I could also go back with my red. And I could even make some stripes on there, just like my paper. Okay, awesome. So we are ready for phase 2, okay? So for phase 2, you'll need your grown-ups to help with this. So you're gonna need your Elmer's glue, and you're gonna need that nice little paintbrush that came in your kit, and this little container, which we're gonna be putting some water in that. Okay, so I'm going to roll my glue stick down like that before I put the lid on. We learn a lot about that in pre-K. It's important because if you leave the lid up and try to put leave the glue up and try to put the lid on, it gets mushy. All right, there we go. Okay, so now parents, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take some Elmer's glue. We're going to squirt it in this container with a little bit of water. Okay, we're trying to make almost like a paint-like substance with just some glue and water because it's going to be the coating that's going to go over top of this. All right, so you can see there's a little bit of water in there, boys and girls. So I'm going to squeeze some glue. And this is definitely something your grown-up should help you with. And then I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to mix together that glue and that water. And parents, you don't want it to be too watery. You want it to be more glue than water, okay? All right, so I'm gonna add some more. And that's the fun part, squeezing it in, isn't it? We normally say we don't squeeze like that because we make big, big puddles when we do that. Okay, so mix it on up. It's usually better to start with the glue first, parents, and then add small bits of water as you go, okay? Then it makes a nice gluey water. It's basically sticky water, we can call that, okay? All right, so boys and girls, once your parent has yours mixed, you're gonna take your brush. Now, the other thing you do want for this is a paper towel, okay? Or napkin of some kind here, so that if you need something to lay your brush on, or you can lay it here on your piece of paper, okay? So now what we're gonna do, boys and girls, very carefully, is we're going to paint the gluey water all over the tissue, okay? So we're gonna try to stay in the lines here so we don't smear our feet, and always start at the top. That way you don't rub your arms into the glue. All right, so all I'm doing, I don't want a lot, right? You notice how I'm tap, tap, tapping, and then just brushing it over, and it will now look nice and wet when you do this. Okay, now if any of that tissue is sticking out of the end, you don't need to put any on that. You just wanna pretend like you're painting the chameleon and trying to stay in the lines, and you wanna make sure that you paint it all over. And you can tell where you've painted because it will be nice and wet. So you notice I'm dipping in a little bit, tap, 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 and just paint right over the tissue. Don't press hard or else the tissue will rip, because once tissue's already fragile, and then once it's wet, it's very fragile. It will rip easily. Okay, see how I'm doing that? Okay, and the paper might start to curl a little bit. That's okay, don't worry about that. All right, I'm gonna hold it up. So now you can already see how wet that is? All right, so I finished the head. Now, don't worry about that. That's gonna start to curl, because when paper gets wet, it curls like that. It's not a worry, okay? All right, now we're gonna keep going all the way down the body. So dip, dip, dip the brush, tap, tap, and just start to paint, paint, paint over that tissue. Dip and tap. And when those little corners stick up, as soon as you use your brush on there, and you'll notice the reason I tap is so I don't drip it on the way over, okay? Now I'm gonna be very careful not to get it on my feet, because if we've used marker, it will start to run a little bit if that marker gets wet. And if it does, don't worry, it really is okay. All right, so I'm gonna lay this back down so I can keep going. All right, and you see I'm just going back over it to make sure I got it all. And now when I hold it up again, you can see the difference, right? Wet and dry still. And we're gonna keep working our way all the way down the chameleon, okay? All right, so dip, tap, 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 and keep on going. And this is good practice for staying in the lines when you do things, right? We work on that a lot in pre-K. And those of you that had me for pre-K now are experts at that going into kindergarten, aren't you? Okay, oh, you know what? I'm gonna move my tissue back. I'm done with that tissue. I don't want it to get in the stuff I'm already doing. Oh, I like the way my purple looks when it gets glue on it. All right, so you keep trucking away and keep painting that tissue. And remember, boys and girls, you can stop the video at any time if you need more time to do something, or I might tell you, okay, go ahead and stop and then go ahead and finish this part just like we did laying the tissue. Okay, perfect. All right, so I am gonna stop it. I'm gonna go ahead and finish mine, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about the next. Well, actually, let me explain this, boys and girls. So you wanna go ahead and finish this, yep. And then what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to let these dry for a little while. So once you've finished, I'm just going to keep doing this as I talk to you. Sometimes when Mrs. McAdams is doing these videos, I say I'm going to do something, and then sometimes I change my mind. I'm sort of figuring it out as I go. So thank you for being patient. Okay, so we're going to keep working on this part. So let's go ahead and let's keep putting on that glue. Okay. And what's going to happen is when we get all of the tissue covered, there we go. This one's not taking the water quite as well. Must be a different kind of tissue. That's okay. Once we get all of the tissue painted with the watery glue, we are going to have to let this sit and dry. And it's going to need to dry, I'd say probably at least an hour, maybe more, because you want it to be completely dry before we cut it, and of course add the funny eyes and the mouth to it. Okay, and that glue underneath needs some time to dry. You can see it still looks a little purple, and so I'm gonna know that mine's getting dry by I won't see any of that purple anymore. Okay, and you'll notice some of these colors might, they say bleed a little. That means they run into each other. That's okay. That's kind of the fun of what makes that chameleon blend a little bit, doesn't it? And there we go. Okay, there we are. Perfect. Okay, so that is phase one of our chameleon. So he or she needs to dry for a little while. So this is a good time if you want to go visit one of the other rooms for camp, maybe the food or the game, something fun that you can do. And then when you notice this is dry, then come back to this video and start in this spot, and make sure you have scissors with you and your googly eyes, and we will go ahead and finish our chameleon. Okay? All right, so good job. Make sure that's all nice and wet, and then you get to sit and let it dry. While that's drying, make sure you go and wash out your container, and definitely wash out the brush, because we're going to use that later in the week for some other painting projects. We don't want that glue to get stuck in there. Okay? All right, so let that chameleon dry and we'll be back in a few minutes. Well, actually maybe an hour or two to do the last part, okay? Can't wait to see what they look like. All right, we'll see you in a few. All right, boys and girls, welcome back to the last part of our mixed up chameleon craft project. So if you have let your chameleon dry, you can now run your fingers over that tissue paper and you can feel that it's gotten a little bit hard, and of course it's dry, and it should be pretty smooth now that it's had a chance to dry. All right, so the last things that we need to finish this are a pair of scissors, your fun googly eyes, there they are, and the Elmer's glue. You'll need that in order to put the eyes on. The glue sticks normally aren't sticky enough for the googly eyes. Okay, so this last part we do need to do some cutting, and it will probably be beneficial to have your grown-up help you with this, or maybe do this for you, because the trick to this is we're not going to be cutting all the way into the middle because it's too small to get in here, and we don't want the chameleon to lose its feet, okay? So, and this gets a little hard on the paper, and it's sometimes a little challenging to see the line. So this might be a step where your grown-up helps you cut it out, and you guys can decide that as you go. So we're going to be cutting around the head this way and down around this part, and we'll come in part way, but we're not going to try to get down inside where you see that white. We're just going to leave that be, okay? All right, so I'm going to grab my scissors and I'm going to cut mine, and then you can decide if you're going to cut yours or have your grown-up help you, or your grown-up do it for you. This is just sort of a trickier part of this, okay? Now, the way I'm gonna start it is I'm actually gonna turn my chameleon upside down, right? Because when you cut, boys and girls, when we learn this, we wanna go, we call it counterclockwise, which actually means we're going up and this way, because it's much more natural to take your scissors this direction than to try to go this way. You see how awkward that is for my arm? Okay, so I'm going to turn my chameleon sort of sideways like this, because I'm going to follow along this line, and then I'm going to be turning my chameleon as we go, okay? And as we're learning, and if you're going to be in my pre-K class in the fall, you'll learn that we say we turn the paper, not the scissors, and you'll start to understand what that means as we do more practice, okay? So I'm going to cut in here along the line and go up over the ear, and then cut this way, okay? All right, so I'm going to cut nice and slow. So now what you can do now is you can watch Mrs. McAdams cut. I'm going to just cut that straight through and let that piece fall off. You can cut along with me. You can have your grown-up cut while I'm cutting. So I'm just going to have you watch me do this part because it's important to watch and see how this is done. Okay. So now I'm going to go along with the head. I'm going to stop with the line here. All right. Now notice I'm turning my paper. And again, small, slow cuts, because it's a little hard to see the line, especially once I get here, because that purple really covers it up. So I'm gonna go, oh, you know what? Of course, Mrs. McAdams always needs my glasses. It's no wonder that was a little bit fuzzy. Oh, that's much better. Okay, so I'm gonna slide my scissors back in where I left off, and I'm gonna make really small, slow cuts. Now you'll see, look, my arm is starting to raise as I do this because I'm moving the paper. Okay, now that's getting a little too high. So I'm gonna move my hand down and hold here as I turn. Okay. Well, look at that. See how my arm is raising again? Okay, that means it's time to move my hand down and hold here. So I'm following along that line, and I'm still turning. Now what I like to do when I get this, and that bothers me when I cut, sometimes I will just, I don't want to rip it because sometimes that can rip your project. Sometimes I just cut that piece off and then it's not dangling from my project. All right. Now look, I'm going to slide my scissors right back in here, and I'm going to keep going around the bend, around and around and around and around. Oh yes. Okay. So now grown-ups, as you're cutting here, my suggestion, and it's up to you, some of your parents I'm sure are like most grown-ups are very good at cutting, so they might be able to get in here pretty far. I will probably go right to about there, and then I'm going to stop. Okay, so then we have that part, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back. Let's see how I want to do this. Yeah, I'm going to come back in here, And then I'm just gonna kind of cut along the feet, not necessarily right next to them. Here, I'm gonna cut off this piece. Okay, so I'm gonna come back in here and I'm just gonna sort of cut around the feet. I'm sure you'll see this grown-ups as you get in here, right? And just kind of come around the bottoms of the feet and then sort of up by the mouth and then this way. And then along that line of the head. And then this part here, you can just trim off if you've got extra. This will be really easy to cut because it's just the tissue paper. You can trim off that extra tissue. Voila. Very nice. How about that? Okay. So again, the reason we didn't try to go in and out now, if your grown-up's a very skilled cutter, they are more than welcome to try to cut around those feet. That's really hard for me, even with my small scissors. So I'm gonna leave that part there and that little bit in there. Your grown-up can try to go inside there too if they want and get that curly cute part, okay? All right, so we're almost done. Look at that. All right, now for some reason, the mouth got covered by tissue paper. Not to worry. What you can do is just take a magic marker and you can draw your own mouth on your chameleon, okay? Any color you like, really. Okay, you can still see mine, so mine's still showing. So I'm gonna leave mine just like that. You could also cut in there if you want. That's really up to you. The last thing your chameleon needs are its eyes. And if you remember, the reason that we chose googly eyes is because as we were reading through the story, one of the funny things Mrs. McAdams was noting was that every time the chameleon got a new body part, its eyes were just all goofy and silly, right? It was getting all mixed up. And if you think about it, if you're confused and mixed up, your eyes start going all kinds of different ways. So what I like about the googly eyes is that once they're glued on and dried, if you shake your chameleon, it can look all goofy and confused and mixed up just like the one in our story. Or if you hold it still, the eyes will stay in one place. Okay, so let me move my scraps. This is the last part. All right, so you have two big fun googly eyes. And you'll have one more of these. Don't lose that extra one because that one you're going to need for our project when we do our seahorse. All right. Now, yours is probably curling up a little bit like that. That happens when the glue dries and the water's been on the paper. So what I like to do is just very gently kind of bend that back a little bit. And you can see that helps flatten out the chameleon a little bit. Okay. If you want to be really flat, you could put a book on top of that for a while and then put your eyes on. Okay. All right, so I am ready. I'm gonna get my glue. Now, here's the trick to glue out of the glue bottle, if you're gonna do the glue on your own. All right, we always say we don't wanna make puddles, right? If we squeeze this really hard, right, and lots of glue comes out, it's a big giant puddle. And if we try to put the eye in that big giant puddle, it's gonna squish out everywhere. It's not gonna look right, okay? So you can do this one of two ways. You can hold this and just put some glue on the eye and then put the eye down, or you can make a small circle of glue on here. I like to put it on the eye because then I know I'm only covering the surface and I'm putting a bit on, but not too much where it's going to start to run off, okay? Then I can very carefully turn it over and I'm just going to tap it down gently because these will slide a lot when they're first wet. So you just kind of slide it where you want it, give it a little tap, tap, and then let it sit, and then pick up your other one. Same thing. There you go, see? All right, not a lot, but enough that it's gonna give it a good stick. And then I'm gonna put that one right next to it. And already, doesn't my chameleon look like it's got some goofy eyes because one is up and one is down? I love it. Love it, love it, love it. And there is my mixed up chameleon. Love it. I cannot wait to see yours when you bring it to Zoom. Okay. If for some reason you don't like that, boys and girls, you could take some color and you can color in the chameleon's mouth if you want. Oh, I didn't even think about a tongue. Oh, I should have sent something to make a tongue. Well, maybe boys and girls, you have something fun that you might attach to yours to make a tongue. Oh, maybe a rubber band or a piece of yarn. Or you could always just make a strip of paper out of your scraps. Oh, look at that. If I cut that. Oh, I wish I'd have thought of that sooner. Well, this is something fun you can add. All right, so look at that long tongue. If I color this pink, I could make that coming out of the chameleon's mouth. Oh, I love that. And my goodness, you could even curl that up on your finger and make a curly tongue. Ooh, I'm definitely going to add a tongue to mine. So when I bring it to Zoom tomorrow, you're going to see that I now have a tongue on my chameleon, just like on the front. I'm already thinking rubber band would be a great idea if you have a rubber band, or a piece of yarn or a piece of ribbon. Oh yes. Okay, so if you want to add a tongue, please feel free to do that. Okay, and if you want to color the mouth or if you want to color in here, that's completely up to you. But there's our mixed up chameleon. Cannot wait to see yours, boys and girls. So thank you for this, and we will see you tomorrow morning on Zoom. Don't forget to bring your chameleon, okay? All right, bye everyone.